Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today, I'm going to be tasting some cake. This cake I ordered 2 months ago. There is a long waiting list because it is the Tom Cruise white chocolate coconut cake. Now, why is it called the Tom Cruise cake? Well, apparently for years now, Tom Cruise has gifted this particular coconut cake around the holidays to people that he's worked with, people that he just wants to say thank you to. And if you receive a cake from Tom Cruise, I guess you're an official A-lister or somebody that Tom Cruise cares about, which is pretty stinking great, I guess, because you're receiving cake and Tom Cruise is thinking about you. So I first heard about this cake back in January when in an interview, Tom Hanks said that he would want a slice of this cake as part of his last meal. Now, if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. So I went and researched it, and you can purchase this coconut cake from Doan's bakery. I purchased it from Goldbelly, but there was a 2-month waiting list because apparently lots of other people were curious about this cake as well. So I ordered it and the cake has arrived. This is the cake. Doan's Bakery apparently has been making cakes for a very long time. They are located in Woodland Hills, California, and this is the cake. So other Hollywood stars, including Rosie O'Donnell, James Corden, have received this cake, who also love it as well. And apparently James Corden, when he spoke to Tom and thanked him for the cake, Tom said he's never tasted this cake. He's heard of wonderful things about it, but has never actually had it himself because, you know, Tom's got movies to film and stuff. Yeah, Tom Cruise. My goodness. Did you see Maverick? I love that movie. If you liked Top Gun back when you were a little pup like me, Maverick was just wonderful. Loved it. Loved a classic Hollywood summer blockbuster. Really enjoyed that. Okay, confession, this is gonna be so cringy and I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I'm going to. When I was in middle school, I had a poster of Cocktail in my locker. Alright, back to the cake. This arrived packed in dry ice, nice and chilled, and they said before you serve it, it should be taken out of the fridge and allowed to warm up to room temperature, which I have done. So sadly, since I will never receive a coconut cake from Tom Cruise, I had to order one myself. So let's go ahead and open it and see what is inside. Here we go. Well, look at that. Doan's Bakery is a family-owned and operated bakery since 1983. Love that. Here they are. As I said earlier, there was a 2-month waiting list for this cake. I don't know, this seems kind of sketch. Okay, here we go. Me and the cake. Oh my goodness, yes. Look at all of that coconut. Apparently when Tom sends it, it has a card from Tom and it's decorated for the holidays. But this is pretty sweet. Little green bow, perfect for springtime. And coconut cakes somehow always remind me of spring and Easter in particular, because that's when you start seeing like lamb cakes and bunny cakes, and shredded coconut is a great way to kind of get that coat, you know? So here is the beautiful cake all wrapped up. Alrighty, let's get our cake out of its nice little satin ribbon. It smells coconutty. Coconutty, coconutty. Yeah. Hello, friend. Can you see that frosting underneath? Dee-dee. Woo! Right on my, not technically cake stand, but we're going to be using it as such. There is the gigantic coconut cake. Yes. I would imagine most people are not curious enough about this cake to spend the $100 for it to appear refrigerated at my doorstep. But I would imagine many people are curious about the taste of this cake and might want to attempt to make it at home for themselves. So, I also made a dupe of Tom Cruise's white chocolate coconut cake. It looks so cute. So this is the first time I've seen the Tom Cruise cake next to the one that I just made. Look, it's so floofy. It's like a chrysanthemum and met a bunny's tail. I'm gonna do this with conviction and believe. Yes, that's a bit redundant, but oh, my cake stand's a little bit small for that cake. Whew, impressive. Look at the two cakes side by side. This one is a little bit elevated. Does not mean you're better. Two cakes, two coconut cakes. We're gonna have a lot of cake to share around here. Alrighty, before we do the taste test, let me walk you through the steps of what I did to make this beautiful cake. And get my recipe. So I adapted this recipe from a recipe I found on All Recipes, and I'll put the original link down below. The first thing I did was sift my dry ingredients. I added the flour, the baking powder, salt, and I grated some fresh nutmeg. Sifted that through to make sure there are no lumps. And if you don't have cake flour, there are recipes to make it at home. You add a little bit of cornstarch to lighten the flour, and that gives you a really nice tender crumb for your cake. Next, you're gonna take your butter and place it into a large bowl and beat it with an electric mixer until it's nicely softened and whipped. And we're going to slowly incorporate our sugar. Next, we're gonna add 2 eggs and add them one at a time, beating well with each addition. You can also use 4 tablespoons of liquid egg whites, which I happen to have on hand, so that's what I am using. Beat this mixture really well for 3 minutes. You want it nice and light yellow in color and nice and fluffy. Next, we're gonna add our vanilla extract, almond extract, and coconut milk. We want to use thick coconut milk that comes in a can. You don't want to be using the stuff that's a milk substitute. You really want the really fatty, rich stuff, the stuff that you would use in a curry or a dessert. So now we have our liquids mixed. We're going to add half of our flour and just mix this until it's well combined. Don't overmix it. Next, we're going to add our sour cream, again, until it's just combined. Then add our remaining flour and work that in. Fold in our shredded coconut and our white chocolate. And I'm using white chocolate chips. Next, we're going to prepare our bundt pan. Now, bundt pans are notorious for sticking, and I am not excluded from that. I still have not found a perfect way to unmold a cake out of a bundt pan. I've also used Nancy Berthwitzel's recipe for a baking paste, which is equal parts oil, shortening, and flour, and that worked all right, but I did have some sticking, so I thought I'd try a new technique, which I found on King Arthur flour. And I took liquid shortening that I melted in the microwave, painted the inside of the bundt pan liberally, and then took granulated sugar and added that to the pan and swirled it around till it was well coated. So after I prepared my pan, I poured my batter into it, tap it a few times to release any air bubbles, then place in a preheated 350-degree oven and cook for 60 to 70 minutes, or until when you put a toothpick in, you have a few wet crumbs. Don't overbake it. For unmolding the cake, I also followed King Arthur's suggestions by allowing the cake to cool right side up for 5 minutes, then turning it over onto a rack and letting it cool for additional 5 minutes before removing the pan itself. And after the 5 minutes, the cake had already released from the pan. And then when I lifted it up, I saw that there was still sticking. The cake did not come out perfectly clean, but it did come out and it looked beautiful. It smelled incredible, lovely vanilla, slightly almond, but lots of coconut smell. It smelled fantastic, but it didn't smell like Malibu rum, which I really appreciated. So let the cake cool completely before we make the frosting. So now we're going to make the cream cheese frosting. So in a large bowl, we're gonna have 1 brick or 8 ounces of cream cheese that has been softened. And to that, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of softened butter. Use an electric mixer to blend that nice and smooth. Next, we're going to add our vanilla and then our powdered sugar in about 3 batches. We want to do this slowly so that we can incorporate it without getting too many lumps. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. That will loosen it a little bit, and then we're going to beat it for 2 minutes, and then you get this lovely white, fluffy, airy cream cheese frosting. And then we're going to take the frosting and dollop it on our completely cooled cake, and then we're going to take our shredded sweetened coconut and sprinkle and gently pat that into the wet frosting so that it sticks. Then the recipe recommends to chill the cake for at least 30 minutes so that the frosting can set up a little bit. And my lovelies, here we are. Alrighty, my lovelies, let's do the taste test. Let's taste the original first, and we can imagine that Tom Cruise is our friend. Okay. I have to say, this looks great. Okay. slicing down. Ooh, slices very nicely. Do, 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 do. Ooh, slices beautifully. Look at that. Can you, okay, you can't see it. Let me put it here. That is the slice. It looks great. We see the icing, the coconut on top, the interior of the cake. Okay. Looks moist. I'm gonna get a bite with the frosting. Frosting, cake. Alrighty, here we go, as I drop coconut everywhere. Itadakimasu. It's a delicious cake, very moist. Frosting is sweet. There's a nice texture of the shredded coconut on the outside, but it is not cloyingly Malibu rummy fake coconut flavor. I really am not a fan of that. It's one of the reasons why I don't like pina coladas or Malibu rum. It's because that flavor or scent to me smells like suntan lotion, but this cake does not have that at all. It has a great coconutty flavor without being overpoweringly and cloyingly artificial tasting. Let's try a bite without the frosting. I got a bite of white chocolate in that bite. A nice pleasant kind of crunch, and the white chocolate flavor blends really nicely with the cake itself. I like that little textural addition. The texture of the cake and the style of cake itself is kind of similar to a pound cake. It's denser and rich and sweet rather than being really fluffy and light like a sheet cake or a roll cake. You know, those chiffon cakes that are a little bit lighter. This one definitely has some heft to it. It's dense and it's rich and lovely. The white chocolate seems to be a layer in this rather than being like chips. It seems like there's like a kind of swirl of it. So you get a little bit of white chocolate rather than having it be all dispersed in the batter like I did. But it's a nice addition to it. And the frosting goes really well too. The frosting definitely is cream cheese based. I taste that nice kind of tangy richness from the cream cheese. I think it's a nice foil to the sweetness of the cake itself. We get a little bit of tang, but it too is very sweet. But that little flavor component of the acidity goes really well with the richness of the cake. Very nice. Alrighty, let's try the homemade version and see how that compares. Oh, I almost don't want to cut into it. It's so lovely and fluffy, but cut we must. Boo boo boo. Ooh, this too is very dense. Ooh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. It looks a little underbaked, doesn't it? The recipe said to pull out the cake when the toothpick came out with a few wet crumbs, which I did, but it looks like I could have gone a little bit more. Let's taste it and see. Let's see how dense this cake is. Wow, that's a lot of frosting on that bite. Let's go with this bite. All right. Oh, this is what I get for showing you the bite. All right, frosting cake. Here we go. Itadakimasu. That's a delicious cake. Very rich as well, like a pound cake. Right away, I noticed a big difference in the flavors of the cake. First of all, I noticed that the cake is not as sweet as the original. Still kind of a pound cake style of cake, but it's not as very sweet as this one. The second thing I noticed is the almond flavor. Almond extract is very, very, very strong. And even though we only used a half teaspoon, I definitely taste it in here, and I don't taste it in the original. So you may want to omit it if you're really trying to go for that coconut cake. Having said that, this is a delicious cake. I appreciate the fact that this one, the interior is not as sweet. Let's try it with the frosting. I prefer the texture of this frosting to this frosting. This frosting, of course, has been with the cake longer and has time to set up and kind of crust up. So it's got a little bit thicker consistency. This is just freshly whipped, so I really love that whipped feeling, texture in my mouth. While this one, again, feels much sweeter than this one. The texture is denser than this cake, which has more of a fluffier pound cake like texture, even though it does have a density to it as well. Let's get a bite with the white chocolate. The dispersal of the white chocolate is very different than this one. This one has, the original has a kind of a swirl or like a belt in the entire cake. So you get a very specific white chocolate bite. Well, this one is kind of just sprinkled all about, and you don't get one with every bite. But when you do, it's pretty subtle. I have to say, the combination of flavors of this cake is quite nice. I have to say, when I think of coconut, I have this bias towards Malibu rum. This cake also does not have that artificial Malibu rum suntan lotion flavor at all. If anything, it's more almondy, but you do get a nice coconut flavor from the shredded coconut, both on the outside and in the batter, but also from the coconut milk that's infused in the cake as well. I have to say the texture of this cake is very different from the texture of this cake. This cake is much more like a pound cake, while this one's a little bit different, but that could have been user error. Perhaps I underbaked it a little bit. It's much more denser and has kind of a really different crumb, but still a good cake. Alrighty, my lovelies, of the two cakes, which cake reigns supreme? I have to say the original Doan's cake. It's a lovely coconut cake, white chocolate as well. It's very rich, but I think what's most important, I think what makes this cake ultimately so special is that it comes from someone that was thinking of you. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. You know, we don't all have to be friends with Tom Cruise, but we can be friends with our friends and loved ones, and we can send them a text and say, hey, I was thinking of you. Send them a card, just out of the blue, random. It brightens anyone's day. Bring them a little something, a little treat. Even if they're not home, just leave it at their door. Just that little note or reminder of, I'm thinking of you and I love you, goes a long way. Alrighty, my lovelies, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Consider subscribing, like this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye. Alrighty, now I've got 2 coconut cakes. Okay, it's time to share.